Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to cover a really important topic. This is basically the closest thing the Japanese language has to the conjunction and in English when we're using and to connect clauses and we want to continue our sentence with another idea basically. And basically what this is going to consist of in the Japanese language, grammatically speaking, is the first clause that you want to say plus the particle te or the te form, then plus the second clause. So this might sound a bit confusing, so let's kind of try to explain it a bit more conceptually. So here we're getting an idea of how important the te form is. In previous videos, when we were learning how to conjugate adjectives and how to connect them, you might have noticed that we conjugated them in a way that the first adjective that we conjugated in order to connect it with the second adjective had to be conjugated in a way that it ended with the character te. That was definitely true for e adjectives, in which we had to conjugate them to have kute, and then we connected it with another verb, and for na adjectives, it wasn't exactly the character te, but it was instead the character de. That is still considered the te form, and even for nouns, that kind of rule still applies. We use the particle de to connect nouns sometimes. So the te form in Japanese here is definitely the most appropriate association with the English and, in which we're connecting things with a certain relationship together, and in English probably the most common relationship is a temporal one. For example, if you were to say something along the lines of I went downtown and watched a movie, here we see that and is separating the sentence into two ideas. I went downtown and I saw a movie, but we know implicitly, just naturally, that obviously I went downtown and I watched the movie. There's a temporal relationship here in that you're probably watching that movie downtown because it's kind of expressed that it happened after you went downtown, because downtown was the first clause. It was connected by the conjunction and, the idea that it's connecting these two, then you watch the movie. So there's a temporal relationship there. Similarly, we also have a cause and effect relationship with this idea of connecting two clauses with the conjunction and, or with, in Japanese case, the form te. If you were to say something along the lines of I kicked the fence and it fell over, obviously it fell over because you kicked it, and the cause there is you kicking the fence and the effect is it falling over. So there's definitely a relationship between these two clauses. Why else would they be in the same sentence? Why else would you connect them to be in the same sentence if there wasn't a certain relationship? So this is the dynamic that we can associate with the te form for the most part. It's the closest thing to it, and with the te form, this is how we're going to try to convey such ideas. So now let's just jump into some examples using the te form with clauses to express the idea of and, in the sense that there's a relationship of time and cause and effect and other such things with clauses. So just as a refresher, we'll use the first example to use the te form to connect adjectives together. So for our line, we have Kare wa tanomoshikute shinsetsu desu. And what this line translates to is something along the lines of he is reliable and nice. So let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up, we have Kare, which means he. We have wa, marking him as the topic of the sentence. We have tanomoshikute, and this is the e adjective tanomoshi, which means reliable. Here we're conjugating it into its te form, tanomoshikute, to basically obey this grammar construct, because we're going to connect it to another adjective. But if we wanted to, we could use a whole clause that has its own verb basically in it instead of an adjective, but we're keeping it simple for this example. So we have tanomoshikute, then we're basically just going to add the na adjective shinsetsu right after that, and then we end the sentence with desu. So all together again, Kare wa tanomoshikute shinsetsu desu means he is reliable and nice. Here the key word is basically and. For our next example sentence, we have a more complicated line. We have Ashita daun town ni itte tomodachi to issho ni ice o tabemasu. And what this line translates to is basically, tomorrow I am going to go downtown and eat ice cream with my friends. If we break the sentence down bit by bit, first up we have the word ashita, which means tomorrow. After that we have downtown, which is just a place, and we're going to mark that place with the particle ni. So downtown ni, to downtown basically. And then we have itte, and itte here is the verb iku, which means to go, and it's te form, so iku changes into itte. So since iku is in the te form here, that te signifies that this is the connecting part of the sentence, and the stuff after it is going to be the second clause. So for the second clause now, we have tomodachi to issho ni ice o tabemasu. So tomodachi to issho ni means together with my friends. Tomodachi is friend or friends. The particle to here basically translates to with, and then issho ni means basically together. So together with my friends. Then we have ice o tabemasu. Ice is ice cream. O is marking ice cream as the direct object of the verb taberu, which is tabemasu here in its polite form. So all together, 明日ダウンタウンに行って友達と一緒にアイスを食べます means tomorrow I am going downtown and eating ice cream with my friends. So of course note here the implication that the eating of ice cream will occur downtown because there is kind of a temporal relationship here. I am going downtown is going to be the first thing that they're going to do relative to this sentence, and then eating ice cream with the friends is going to be after that first thing. So it's a subsequent action. Okay, so for our last example sentence, we have the line コンピューターが壊れて私は宿題を出せなかった. And what this sentence translates to is basically my computer broke and I could not turn in my homework. So we'll break down the sentence bit by bit like always. First up, we have computa, which means computer. We have ga, marking computer as the subject right there. We have kowarete, and this is going to be the te form of the verb kowaru, which means to break. And kowaru is going to be the intransitive verb here, so it doesn't mean to break something else, but to break basically yourself, to break down. Then since that is in the te form, we know here that that's the connector, and the second clause is about to come. So now the second clause, watashi wa shukudai o dasenakatta. Watashi means I or me, wa is marking me or I as the topic right there. Shukudai means homework. And it's going to be the direct object because we have the direct object marker O right after it. And then the verb right after that direct object marker particle is dasenakatta. And dasenakatta is going to be the past negative potential form of the verb dasu. And the verb dasu here basically means to turn in, so if it's in the past negative potential form, that means the potential form of dasu is to be able to turn in, if we turn that into a negative, to not be able to turn in, and then we make that into the past, so was not able to turn in. So dasenakatta is was not able to turn in. Was not able to turn in what? The homework, because there's the direct object marker O. So that second clause right there is I was not able to turn in my homework. Combine that with the first part of the sentence, and we have computer ga kawarete watashi wa shukudai o dasenakatta. My computer broke and I was not able to turn in my homework. To be honest, even though the te form kind of directly translates to and here, we could kind of just loosely translate the te form to mean so. So the sentence would be my computer broke so I was not able to turn in my homework, because the cause and effect relationship here is just that obvious. But of course, even if we still just use the conjunction and, it's just so implicit that we know that it's because the computer broke that I was not able to turn in my homework. So again, it's a pretty clear-cut relationship there. And so yeah, that is using the te form to connect clauses together. Something that I haven't noted yet is that we can actually do this more than once in a sentence, so you could just connect as many clauses as you want virtually. And you can see how that translates to English too. You could just make a sentence completely run on by connecting different clauses together with and. I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and I did this afterwards, and then I did this. It could go on forever. So again, the te form is basically the closest and most appropriate association with the conjunction and in English, or the idea of using and to connect clauses and whatnot. And of course, you can see how valuable this is in everyday conversation, in any given conversation, because the word and is probably spoken by anybody more than a dozen times every day, way more than a dozen times actually. So yeah, very important.